Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. As it was announced before, this is the last session, inshaAllah ta'ala, in this program. We'll talk about a couple of signs, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, but I would like first to spend some time with the Hadith of Jibril again, because I believe it's a very important hadith. It's an extremely important hadith. And if you remember before, during the first session, we said that it's a special hadith because the ulama said, the ulama of Ahl Sunnah, the scholars of hadith, they said it is the most important hadith in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We said the message is extremely important. Jibril came down in the shape of a human being in front of the Sahaba. And they saw him, an unknown human being. He used to come in the form of another Sahabi. His name is Dihya al-Kalbi, al-Ansari. He was handsome, and Jibreel used to take his form, his image, and would come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and talk to him. But people will not, the Sahaba around him will not recognize him, would not recognize that this man is Jibreel. And sometimes he comes in a different way, like most of the time he's invisible, people don't see him, but Rasulullah ﷺ feels his presence, and of course he will receive wahi from him. But this time he decided to come at the end of his life, ﷺ, around 3 months before he passed away, and he came with these 4 important questions. It's like a summary of this religion. This is what you need to pay attention to, O Muslims. And you remember he asked him about Islam, Iman, Ihsan, and then the hour. 4 questions, which means that our knowledge about the final hour is an important part of the deen. And then Rasulullah ﷺ, of course, told him that I don't know the timing, the exact timing of the hour. You don't know, no one knows except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he told him, I will tell you about its signs. Now the questions here, we have around, he didn't mention the major signs in his answer. He mentioned 2 minor signs. Why did he select these 2 minor signs? Why did he select them? Because everything is well designed in this hadith. It's a perfect story. It's a beautiful story. As I said, Jibreel wanted to remind Muslims about the major principles of their deen at the end of his life, alayhi salatu wasalam. And the Sahaba were looking at him. They couldn't recognize the man. He was handsome, clean clothes. They said, he's not one of the locals. We don't see traces of traveling. His clothes are not dusty. Who is he? And they were paying attention. He was able to fully grab their attention, and it was meant to be this way. So they understand the message very well. Now Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned only 2 signs, and the question is, are they randomly chosen? So Rasulullah ﷺ want to say, okay, there are many signs, but I can tell you about 2 examples. He didn't say that. He said, I will tell you about its signs. And he didn't mention all the other signs, he mentioned these 2 signs. Now, are they related? I believe they are related based on the interpretation that I will provide today. But I will tell you about the other interpretation, especially of the second sign, that a female slave will give birth to her master. Right? But the first one is visible. Everyone is able to see it. Now, the first sign is about people competing, or Rasulullah ﷺ described them as shepherd, naked, barefoot, shepherd, competing in building tall buildings. Right? Now, in a different hadith that is not found in Sahih Muslim, he was asked about them and he said the Arabs. So he's talking about what's happening in the Arabian Peninsula. You tell me China is competing with them, United States of America, other countries. There is another hadith about other people. So Hadith Jibril is about the Arabs or the Bedouins. Who were Bedouins before they found oil? Now they found oil, they got money, and then they're competing in building and constructing tall buildings. The tallest building now in the world is in Dubai. So the hadith of Jibril is about them, about the Arabian Peninsula. There is another hadith in Sahih Muslim about people competing in constructing, in building tall buildings. I'll mention this hadith in case people get confused and say, okay, but the Chinese are doing the same thing, this and this country is doing the same thing. So why talking about the Arabs? Because in hadith that is found in Musnad Imam Ahmad, he was asked about those people mentioned in Sahih, in the Hadith of Jibril, and he said they are the Arabs. Now this competition started in 1979. Are you able to see this building, this tall building in the middle of the desert? That's the first high-rise building. The construction started in 1978. 1978. Try to memorize this date. It's very important for the second sign. 1978. It's very significant here. And the construction was completed in 1979. If you research this tower, it's called Sheikh Rashid Tower or Dubai World Trade Center, you'll find that it is the first high-rise building built in the Middle East. In the Middle East. Of course, the Americans were able to build a high-rise building in 1931. I think that's the first one in the history of the United States of America, 1931. But this one was the first building, or high-rise building, and the height was 149 meters. 149. Now the same building here, you can see it's surrounded with, now in the left here, the building, the yellow building in the middle, that's the first one. That was built in 1979. In 1979, it was surrounded with what? Desert, right? Now in here, between 2000, this picture was taken between 2000, somewhere between 2000 and 2010. The other one after 2010, what do you see in the second one? Burj Khalifa. It was built in 2000, completed in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest, as I said, the highest building in the world. 828 meters. That's Dubai. Like 1979, it was desert. Now, I'll tell you about, I got this information from a website. I'll tell you about this website. It's very trustworthy because this website is specialized in this field. They track the history of high-rise buildings in the whole world. And they have, they do conferences, and it's in the United States of America. It's called Escape. I'll show you the website. So here they have data of the 100 tallest completed buildings in the world. I looked at the data there. Number one in the whole world is Burj Khalifa, 828 meter. 19 of these buildings are in the Gulf area, which means that 20% of the first 100 tallest completed buildings, 20% of these completed buildings are found in the Gulf area, in the Arabian Peninsula. 13 of these buildings were built before the year 2000. I want you to pay attention to this. So this competition really started. It started, yes, in 1979, but it was very slow. I want you to pay attention to the pace here. Very slow. It took off after the year 2000. So 87% of these buildings were completed between the year 2000 to 2022. I want you to pay attention to this period of time, between 2000 to 2022, this year. This period of time is very important. 87% of these buildings worldwide, not only Dubai, worldwide were built and completed within this period of time. Here we remember the Hadith of Jibril and the other Hadith where he said people, not only the Arabs, people will be competing in building tall buildings. And it's all happening within this. It all happened within this period of time. And Rasulullah ﷺ made these two events, what's happening in the Arabian Peninsula and people in general competing, all of them made them signs, minor signs of the Day of Judgment. They have another data, the 100 tallest buildings under construction. And it's Jeddah Tower, again, in Saudi Arabia. Number one, which is, they said it will be more than 1,000 meters. But they said under construction, but it's not. They are doing nothing now. They stopped working there for some political reasons, internal political reasons within the Saudi family. I don't know if they're going to complete this tower or not. But in this website, the 100 tallest buildings under construction worldwide, the first one or number one is found in Saudi Arabia. Again, remember the Hadith of Jibril. And 6 of these buildings are in the Gulf area, only 6. They have another data, 100 tallest proposed buildings in the world. They are proposed. And number one is Uptown Dubai Tower, 711 meter, again in Dubai. The tallest among these 100 buildings that are proposed is found in Dubai. Now, of course, there is another structure. Didn't include it here in this website because it is only a structure, is an observation tower. Because when they talk about these buildings here, they're talking about buildings which include offices and apartment buildings, residential, right? But there is another structure, it's called Dubai Creek Tower, and it's supposed to be 1,300 meters. And they couldn't finish it because they needed money. Because of COVID, they were supposed to complete it in 2022. You can double check this structure, but it's an observation tower. Doesn't have offices, doesn't have apartments. It's like the tower in France, in Paris. But 12% of these buildings are in the Gulf area again. This is the source here, Skyscraper Center. You can check yourself this data. skyscrapercenter.com/buildings. They give you the data about every city, every country, and the history of these buildings. They give you everything. Everything you need to know about this competition that Rasulullah ﷺ made it a sign, a minor sign of the Day of Judgment. As I said, in the US it started in 1931, that was one building. But when it comes to Hadith Jibril, it started in 1979. But the construction of that first building started in 1978. Keep that in mind. As I said, this competition could be between different nations. So the competition between the Arabs is in the Hadith of Jibril, and the competition between all nations in a different Hadith in Sahih Bukhari, the hour will not be established. And he mentioned a couple of signs, and then he said, until the people compete with one another in constructing high buildings. That is in Sahih al-Bukhari. People will include everyone. Everyone. In case you are confused about the Hadith of Jibril, this Hadith will solve the problem. And whenever he mentioned Bedouins competing in building, and when I say Bedouins, I'm not trying to put them down. we have to be careful. To be Bedouin is not something, it's not degrading. It's not an insult. There are good Bedouins there are Bedouins, there are good Muslims, and I'm not saying anything I'm not judging these people. I'm not judging. We don't have the right to judge anyone, right? I have to be clear about it. Because building a tall building is halal in itself. What is not halal or what is not good is to compete in this dunya. You build this building, I'm going to build another taller building than yours. I'm going to show you, I have more money than you. This is what is not good, right? But Rasulullah ﷺ, he said, they will be competing. تَطَاوُلْ فِي الْبُنْيَانِ. This is what he told us, right? But we don't have the right to mock them or put them down or anything. Yani that's a different, leave it aside. We're trying to understand the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ. And it is our right as Muslims to understand the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ, but we don't have the right to judge other people. Is that clear, ya ikhwan? Now what is the second? Second is very interesting. The second sign, a female slave giving birth to her master. I have children here with us, but we need to talk about it. So the first interpretation of classical scholars, because they didn't know about other things, classical scholars who lived in the old days. So they said, this is their interpretation, I need to share it with you. Slavery will be widespread and female slaves will give birth to their masters. I don't want to go into details of this because there are details related to this, but I don't believe in this interpretation. Because slavery now is not part of our culture. It's not part of our culture at all. And we live at the end of times. So I don't believe that time will change and slavery will become widespread again to the extent that female slaves will give birth to their masters. Their masters could be, مثلا, she's married to a king or a leader or someone who is wealthy, and then she will give birth to her children. Her own children will be like their father, and they will be treating their mother like slave. I don't believe in that. Ibn Hajar, Imam Ibn Hajar, who died in 1852 in the Hijri calendar, he totally rejected the first interpretation. So I'm not the only one. Ibn Hajar, who is a great scholar, another classical scholar, but he died in 1852, right? 852 in the Hijri calendar, so 1449 in the Christian era. He totally rejected the first interpretation. He said, no, it's something that will be unusual, that will happen at the end of time. And the only interpretation that he had in mind, children will be mistreating their parents and treating them like slaves. Again, I don't feel comfortable with this interpretation. Why? Because not listening to your parents is different than treating them like slaves. There is a difference between disobeying your parents. Muhammad, you need to do this, you don't listen. Ali, you need to do this, he doesn't listen. There is a big difference between not listening and not obeying, and between treating your parents like slaves. That's a different level. So I don't feel comfortable with his translation. There is a translation that was interpretation given by a contemporary scholar, and he said it could be surrogacy. I don't know if you are familiar with this term. In Arabic it's called isti'jar al-arham. Isti'jar al-arham. Women will be renting their wombs, carrying babies. They are not genetically related to these babies. Carrying babies for other families, for money. They do it for money. Okay, what is the relationship between the two signs? This is the history of surrogacy. In 1976, in modern history, this is the first traditional surrogacy contract that was written in the United States of America. Traditional means the mother is still related to the baby. The mother was the biological mother of the baby. but she carried the baby for another family. Now 1978, that's why I told you pay attention to this date here. These two signs are starting in the same time. 1978, Louise Brown was born. She was the first test tube baby in UK. أطفال الأنابيب. أول طفلة في بريطانيا. The first test tube baby. And in India, India is important in this industry. When it comes to this sign, India is very important. The first IVF baby was born in the same year, October 1978 in India. So this event are paving the road for what will become an industry after that. It will become an industry. Clinics and companies, networks, bringing women. These women will stay in some centers and they will give birth to other families. And when we talk about commercial surrogacy, the woman who is carrying the baby, she is not related to the baby at all. I don't want to go into details, but you can search it yourself. So in the United States of America, the first commercial surrogacy contract was in 1985, and then 1986, the baby Shira was born. From a commercial surrogacy contract. Commercial, that means the mother is not related. She was paid money to carry the baby. Now, but it was banned. It was expensive in the United States of America, expensive in other European countries. So what happened? These people who got the idea of making money out of this, they started looking for cheap surrogacy. And they went into India. They started with India. It became legal in 2002 in India. And they allowed it for a while, for around 12 years. Until 2014, they paid attention that these clinics and these companies are abusing this woman. And they started talking about human trafficking. Pay attention to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A female slave will give birth to her master. She's paid 10,000, 12,000, getting pregnant for another family. And the family sometimes is not traditional family. You know what I mean by that? Many times it's not traditional family. And this woman will go through a lot for the sake of what? Giving a baby, birth to a baby that doesn't belong to her. She's not the mother. Sometimes I saw, when I doing this research, 9 women, 10 women will be kept in one room. And they stay there for 9 months. Staying away from their own families. They leave their own families. She leaves her husband, her children. She goes to this clinic to get some money because they are poor. They don't have money. It becomes an industry. So in 2011, between 2008 to 2011, UN decided to make a study about this, what's going on here. And so they came up with some results and a report that this industry in India alone was worth around $400 million in 2011. More than 3,000 fertility clinics were giving these services to people coming from different parts of the world. From Europe, from the United States, from America, from Japan, coming to India because it's cheap. Now, when India paid attention to this, that this is not a regulated market, and there are many things that are happening here that we shouldn't be happy with, these women are abused, then they started talking about it in the parliament, 2014, 2015. Pay attention to these dates. They are important. I'll come back to them. Then they started discussing how to regulate this market. Until 2019, they approved a bill. This bill would regulate this kind of activities, and they banned people coming from outside India. And they banned commercial surrogacy. They said, no, this is not humane. And they allow only what is called voluntary surrogacy. A woman would feel sorry for a family who are not able to have a child, and she's related to them, a cousin, and then she would, if she signs a paper and she has to apply, and they have to apply, they are related, not for money. The only money that is given to her is medical expenses. No material compensation. So it's not a business anymore in India after they approved this bill. But when they started talking about it in India, these companies, they were looking for other options. They went to Thailand, to Mexico, to Cambodia. And you can do your research about the status of surrogacy in these countries. And in the parliament of some of these countries, people were talking about human trafficking and how these women are abused. So this is the interpretation that I feel comfortable with. Why? Because the timing. These two signs or two events are strongly related. I'll show you a graph. Are you able to see this graph here? So these blue dots here are buildings in Dubai. This is the city of Dubai, the hub of this, this growth in the area. And that's starting from 1980. 1980, where we got the first building. So it was slow, very slow. In 1999, before 2000, they got Burj Al Arab, which was around 350 meters. But after 2000, look at the construction after 2000, the year 2000. I'm talking about this period, 2000 to 2022. It's a very important time. And this is what Rasulullah ﷺ talked about. Wallahu ta'ala alam. He made it a sign of what? A minor sign of the Day of Judgment. Now, when it comes to surrogacy, it went through the same stages. As I said, these babies, the first babies were in the United States of America, 1986. In India, the first surrogate baby was in 1994. But after 2000, it became legal in India after 2002, and it became an industry, and it went to other countries. Between 2000 and until now, as I said, it's banned in India. It was banned in 2015 in Thailand, but it is legal in Mexico. It is legal in Cambodia. Cambodia, they are looking into it. They said, oh, these women are being abused these days, and we should have some regulation. So they are looking into the situation. But when India paid attention to these problems, 2014 and 2015, what happened? Oil prices went down, and many people lost their jobs. What does it mean? That means these Arab countries don't have enough money now. The constructions of the buildings started slowing down. It's like following the same line. If we have another graph for surrogacy, it will be almost the same. Almost the same. And now, two buildings are placed on hold. Two buildings, the Dubai Creek Tower and the Kingdom Tower in Jeddah, they are put on hold because they don't have enough money. Slowing down with the new, the recession and COVID and all these things. And also surrogacy, the same thing. Countries are paying attention to, what's going on into this country, underground. It's an underground industry now in some countries. Now in Thailand, because it is banned in Thailand, women from Thailand are going to other countries and they face some dangers. It's a human trafficking. A company is taking them to other countries, get pregnant in that country, they become surrogate mothers, they give birth to these babies, and they come back to their country. So it's like she's working for this baby. A female slave will give birth to her master. Wallahu ta'ala alam. This is I would say a possible. I cannot say 100% this is the right interpretation. I have to respect my limitation. This is a sign that was mentioned by Rasulullah ﷺ. The terms are not very clear, and they are not clear for a reason. The first one is very clear. Second one is not very clear for a reason, because the signs of the hour are meant, some of them to be clear and some of them not to be very clear, because life need to continue. If everything is clear to us, and we know deadlines, and we know the dates, and we know what's happening, we might actually become depressed and lose hope and lose motivation in this life. Okay, I don't have to go to university. The hour is happening. The Dajjal is coming. The other day there is a child who attended with us, a teenager who attended with us the first class, and when he went home, he told his mother, the Dajjal is coming anyway. I don't have to I don't have to do this or that. So some of our kids maybe say, okay, I don't have to go to university, and I don't have to do a business. The Dajjal is coming, Mahdi is coming. There are people who think this way, by the way. They keep talking about Mahdi their whole life. If you follow them on social media, the only thing they talk about it is al-Mahdi. But it's not meant to be this way. And this knowledge, we need to learn about it, but we have to have some moderation. We have to have some moderation. Life needs to continue, right? We need to continue, do our business, go and do our studies, but we need to keep in mind these things. And I mentioned a very strong proof that we need to do what we are supposed to do regardless. What is the proof that I mentioned 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? Do you remember? Can someone remind us of the hadith that I mentioned? A very strong hadith that we are supposed to. The sapling, the hadith about the sapling, yeah, the young tree. If someone, مثلا, has planning to plant a young tree, right? And the day of judgment is happening in front of his eyes. Do you think this man will be able to plant it? Do you think so? I asked you this question before. I don't think so. I don't believe this man will have the courage to think about something like that, right? But why did Rasulullah ﷺ mention something like that? He said, let him plant it. If he's able to plant it, let him plant it. If you are supposed to do something good, then you need to do it. Continue with good plans that you have for your life, for your akhirah, for everything. Anyway, so now the next sign is number 18 here. In this class is number 18, but don't worry about these numbers. The numbers for this class only. The time will pass more quickly. تقارب الزمان. So Rasulullah ﷺ, he said, لن تقوم الساعة حتى يتقارب الزمان. The ulama had a discussion about this hadith. Is it literal or metaphorical? Yeah, both interpretations are possible. Some of the metaphorical interpretations is that barakah will disappear from time. People will feel like there is no barakah in time. They're not able to achieve things. They're not able to make big achievements. And this is something that we feel these days. People don't visit each other. Oh, I don't have time. I'm busy. And they keep complaining all the time. I think because we have many things to do in life. We have devices, we have our studies, we have business, and we are busy with many things. The other interpretation that was given is ease and speed of travel between distant places. So in the old days, people used to make a distance between two towns in 1 month, 2 months. Nowadays they can make it in 2 hours or 3 hours. تقارب الزمان. This is one of the interpretations. There is another interpretation. They said time will become shorter in the real sense. And this did not happen yet. It will happen in the future. If it happens, it will happen in the future. A year will be like a month in the real sense. And a month will be like a week. And a week will be like a day. And a day will be like 1 hour. Right? But this didn't happen. We didn't see it. It might happen in the future. If it was meant by the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ, for sure it will happen. There is no doubt about it. لا ينطق عن الهوى عليه الصلاة والسلام. He doesn't speak from his own desires. It's all wahi. It's all revelation. So if he meant it this way, It will happen in the future. It did not happen yet. Markets become interconnected. تقارب الأسواق. And this is something that we can see nowadays. So the markets get closer to one another. Rasulullah ﷺ, he said, لا تقوم الساعة تكثر الفتن ويكثر الكذب وتتقارب الأسواق. الكذب, we see it. All politicians are lying to us. We see it, like, right, we feel it. I mean, and markets getting closer to one another. So there are many interpretations. You can think about online marketplaces. I mean, you're in Canada, you can buy something from India, from UK, from United States of America with a click of a button. Just pay, you have a card, you need to have a card with you, and you can buy whatever you want from other markets. So they are like close to you. In the old days, if someone wants to buy from something, he's in Canada and wanted to buy something from the US, he has to travel, right? He has to drive. Nowadays, you don't have to drive. Just go to Amazon and you get it for within 2 days. Or we made an order just a few days ago. We got our order within 2 days or 3 days. It's amazing. The order was made Wednesday, we got it on Saturday. So, and eBay, Alibaba, same thing. If you think about supply chain, it's a network. What is supply chain? It's a network of individuals, companies, countries, different business entities, all of them coming together to produce one product and distribute it, right? One product. But if one of these companies is closing, is not able to provide to do their work, then the whole project will collapse. This is what is called supply chain. Many markets being connected together, contributing into the making of a car, for example, or an equipment. An equipment or a car is not made only by one company. There are many companies contributing into the production of this car. Globalization, for example, by the process of what? Different companies and different countries making some influence on global markets. And they are influencing prices. People check the prices online, and they might actually adjust their prices based on prices in Australia, in Europe. So that could be the interpretation. Wallahu ta'ala, تتقارب الأسواق. Physically, in some countries, you go to some cities, and you feel like, the stores and the plazas and malls are everywhere. That could be another interpretation. But these things that I'm talking about, we feel them. They're part of our life. They are there, and we see them with our eyes. There are some signs here. Exclusive greeting. On purpose, I included this one because this is not something good, but we do it. Taslimul khassa. What is taslimul khassa? Giving salam only to the people you know. If you pass by someone, another Muslim, you don't know him, you don't say salam, you don't offer salam. Rasul ﷺ made it one of the signs of the Day of Judgment. Is it happening or not? You know what is amazing? And this is not a joke, right? I become very upset when I see it. Sometimes two people are standing up, talking to each other, right? And a third one will come, and he recognizes one of them. He knows one of them, right? He would come and offer salam to the one of them, the one he knows. And he completely ignores the second one. And I don't understand this. And it's happening in our masajid. Wallahi, I have seen it in this masjid many times. In many masajid, it's not the only one. But I have seen it in this place too. After Jum'ah, people coming, saying salam to the one you know, and then you go and you leave. How about the other person? I mean, he's standing up with him, he's talking to him. What are you doing? And there are in some communities, You pass by a person, you say salam, and then he will look at you. He will look at you without returning the salam. This is something that happened to me. Not here, in a different country. It's like, I don't know you. Why are you saying salam to me? So Rasulullah ﷺ, he said, Taslimul khassa. Just before the hour, there will be exclusive greetings. This is a translation that is found in some books. Widespread trade. Everyone wants to make business. Everyone. Young people nowadays are all doing, they have some activities, online activities, and trying to make money. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with making halal money. But Rasulullah ﷺ made it one of the signs. Now, such that a woman will help her husband in his business is not always something bad. And you shouldn't think about minor signs as something bad. Like the mission of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was one of the signs, right? Is it something bad? His mission, alayhi salatu wasalam, this is the best thing that happened in the last 2,000 years, right? His mission, alayhi salatu wasalam. So one of the signs, minor signs, the conquest of Jerusalem. Jerusalem became a Muslim country, a Muslim town. So there are good things, other things that are not. Here it depends. If a woman is neglecting her children, there are people, families, all families fully involved in the business to the extent that the rights of the children are neglected. Then this is something that is questionable. And these people have to think about their children, make a balance in their life, right? There are women who go outside and work in companies and they really don't need money. Their husbands are doing well, they are wealthy, they have enough, but she wants to go outside and mix with men. Well, this is something that they need to look into with these sisters. If she's fine and she's everything is fine, they're wealthy, they have enough. Why? She doesn't need maybe to go outside. She needs to take care of her children. So anyway, but there are women who need to be outside. There are women who need to be outside. They don't have an income. Or the income coming from the husband is not enough. Right? So it's there are different cases. Every family is unique. Every case is unique. But Rasulullah ﷺ, he said, maybe because during that time women were not involved in business. Because the business people used to travel, used to go with caravans from town to town, and maybe it was difficult for women to get involved in business. And he said at the end of time, women will be involved in business. Allahu Alam. Another one that is not good, severance of family ties. Qati'atul arham. And this is something that we see it. Maybe we don't feel it here, because most of the people here are by themselves. Like you find one family, they don't have cousins. They don't have, the person is here with his wife and children. His brothers are back home. His uncles are back home. So they don't feel this problem. They don't face it, right? But if you go back home, oh my God, you feel it. You see it. People not having good relationship with each other. Family members. Brother not talking to his brother. A sister not talking to her sister. And most of the time is about mirath. I was in the summer, I was visiting back home, and I attended the khutbah, and he said, the imam said, mirath, inheritance, dividing the assets. Someone who passed away, the father who passed away, is creating big problems within families. Dividing the inheritance. Right? But even here I know people, they are brothers, they don't talk to each other. They're brothers. They don't see each other. Maybe they see each other during Eid time or during janazah, if there is a janazah. But they don't visit each other. That's not the case. And we Muslims, we have to have, when it comes to family members, we have to have strong ties with our family members. I know it's not easy all the time. You tell me, everyone, when you talk about this subject, I always get people coming to me in private and saying, I know this is a duty, keeping the ties of kinship, but I can't. Because they are hurting me, they are doing this, they're not respecting my rights, and all excuses. So, but anyway, this is part of our deen. It's the duty of every Muslim to try his best to keep good relationship with his family members, the rest of family members. False testimony, concealment of truthful testimony, and the emergence of the pen. What does it mean? Everyone will be able to write and read. We see it now. MashaAllah, everyone is able to read and write, right? But knowledge of Sharia is lacking, is not there. The understanding of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the right understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah is not there. People, they don't know, Muslims who know how to read and write, they are highly educated, they don't know the basics of their deen. I'm sorry to say this. The basics. I have seen examples, people highly educated, they are lawyers, they are doctors, and you have a discussion with them about a simple dua. They come to a janazah, their father passed away, and they tell you, I don't know what to say. You don't know what to say, your father passed away, you don't know what to say, Allahumma ghfir lahu warhamhu, oh Allah forgive him and have mercy on him. And he's a lawyer or a doctor, right? They're highly educated in dunya. But he doesn't know how to say a simple dua for his father or his mother who passed away. This is something that we dealt with it. In this city, I'm talking about this community here. So, but Rasulullah ﷺ, he said the emergence of the pen, so everyone is able to read and write, he made it one of the signs. Now, there are other signs, those which have not yet happened. So he said the Arabian Peninsula will become gardens and rivers once again. Why? Because he said حتى تعود جزيرة العرب. This Rasulullah ﷺ is very careful about the terms he used. حتى تعود. That means it was until the Arabian Peninsula will become full of rivers and gardens. That means it was before. And there was a research. I forgot to bring it with me, the name of the research. It was done by some British scientist with some scientists from Saudi Arabia. If you are interested, I can give it to you. I have it in a different document. It was done recently, 2015, 2016. It lasted for maybe 4 years, 5 years. And they spent money on it. Some researchers and scientists, they went to Arabian Peninsula and they were digging. And they found actually that area was full of gardens and rivers. And they found even the bones and the remains of animals, many animals, elephants and other animals. So they said this area was full of gardens and rivers long time ago. Basically confirming what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Because he said, حَتَّى تَعُودَ, until the Arabian Peninsula will become again full of gardens and rivers. When this will happen, there is a Muslim scientist who said, if Europe, when Europe sees what is called a minor ice age, the temperature in Europe becomes very cold. And this minor ice age took place in the 17th century. Europe became very cold at that time and many people died. It's not a major, minor. So he said, when this happened, the Arabian Peninsula will become full of gardens and rivers. Allahu Ta'ala A'lam. The new moon will increase in size. There are people, scholars, who said it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I had experience with this 2 years ago. We made a decision here based on the reports coming from Middle East and the report coming from the rest of the Muslim world about the moon sighting for Ramadan, right? And then 2 or 3 people on the same year, they told me on the first night, Sheikh Hassan, the moon is not one night. It should be, this is the size of 2 nights or 3 nights. But our decision in Calgary is based on reports coming from majority of Muslim countries. Alhamdulillah, we are behind in time. So when it is evening time, when it is morning time here, we know about what's going on in the Muslim world. right? And the biggest organization in town here, MCC, will make decision based on that, right? So we are always fasting with 80 to 90% of Muslims worldwide, which makes me very comfortable, I'm comfortable with this decision, right? Fasting with 80 or 90% of Muslims worldwide is something good. So these brothers told me, look, the moon is not one night. I told them about this hadith, and they said, wow, I didn't know about that. And the problem was solved. So they were fine with this answer. Few days ago, like 2 weeks ago, I looked at the new moon with my children. I told them, I don't believe this is one night. Allahu A'lam. If this sign is happening nowadays, Allahu A'lam. But these are personal experience. This is my personal experience with this. I'm not sure about it. I cannot confirm that this sign is happening. But this is what happened in the last 2 years or 3 years. People were paying attention to the new moon and saying this, it looks bigger. It's not one night. Could be the new moon of 2 nights or 3 nights. Wallahu ta'ala alam. So I'm not sure. Animals and inanimate objects will speak to people. This is something that did not happen yet. It happened during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A Jewish shepherd from the city of Medina was taking care of his sheep, and a wolf came and took one sheep, a wolf. So the shepherd ran, he went after him, chased the wolf until he was able to save the sheep from the wolf. So the wolf stood up on a rock, on a hill or something, and he started speaking to the man. And the man was shocked. A wolf talking to me in a human voice? And he said to him, this is a rizq that Allah has given me, and you took it from me. The sheep, right? And then he said, when the man said, wow, this is amazing, a wolf talking, he said, I'll tell you about something more that is more amazing. He said, the man in your city, he's telling people about what will happen in the future. He meant Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This hadith is sahih. This Jewish man went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the only prophet in the city, and he told him about what happened to him. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called the Sahaba, and he said, listen to him, listen to his story. And the man, he told them what happened to him, and he said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, لَن تَقُومَ السَّاعَةِ, the hour will not be established until animals and inanimate objects will speak to people. The whip of a person will talk to him, and some parts of his body will speak to him. It didn't happen, but Rasulullah said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it will happen in the future. Then we have no doubt, hadith is authentic, it will happen in the future. The Euphrates river will uncover a mountain of gold. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about 3 things, right, in this sign. That the water will retreat. Water will retreat, right? Then a mountain of gold will appear. A big amount. You could say a big amount of gold. The people will be fighting about this gold, right? So 3 parts here. The first part is happening now. You can do a research by yourself. Do research about what's happening about the jafaf. What is jafaf? Drought, right? Drought is happening, taking place in Iraq now. You can do a research. Study the reports written by the UN, by different organizations about what's happening. Water scarcity in Iraq. They are in crisis. It's a crisis now in Iraq. So water, they will lose water. These rivers, the Iraqis were shocked. Just a couple of months ago, they saw a child walking in a river. Because this river was always, the level of this river was always high. Children cannot walk, cannot cross this river. But they saw on TV a child who is 8 years old crossing the river, and they were shocked. The Iraqis themselves, they were shocked. This is the first time that happened in history. So they are losing water. Nas'Allah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on them. But it's not something easy to talk about. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that this is what will happen. The earth will bring forth its hidden treasure. This is something that will happen during the time of Isa alayhi salam. Isa, when he comes back alayhi salam, he will stay for 40 years. And earth will bring forth of its hidden treasure. There will be pieces, big pieces of gold on the ground. And then the hadith says a person will come, a killer, someone who killed someone else, will come to this gold and he will kick it with his foot. And he say, because of this I killed someone else. And then someone else will come and he said, because of this I had a bad relationship with my family, a sour relationship with my family. We were competing about money and wealth, and he will kick it with his foot and will not take it. Because wealth will be abandoned during the time of Isa alayhi salam. The appearance of Al-Mahdi. Now Al-Mahdi, I said minor or major. I personally believe that it's a minor sign. But there are some ulama who believe it could be a major. The reason I believe it's a minor sign because the appearance of Al-Mahdi was not mentioned in the famous hadith in which Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned the 10 signs which are not usual. They are not ordinary. Right? Supernatural events. The 10 signs that I mentioned in the first Halaqa. Mahdi is not one of them. So Mahdi could be, some ulama they said could be the last, not the last because there will be some other minor signs that will appear, but it's the sign that will appear before the appearance of the minor signs. Because after the Mahdi comes, then the Dajjal will appear, and then after Dajjal, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and the sun will rise from the west, and all these things will happen, will keep happening now. These are major signs. But Mahdi will come just before that. So it could be the sign, the minor sign, that will take place before the appearance of the major signs. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Now there are many hadith about Al-Mahdi, and it's a big controversy, but majority of Muslim scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they believe that he's a real man, he will appear at the end of time. Some of them, they said, at least 36 of the hadith about Al-Mahdi are authentic. Some of them, they said less, but at least Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they believe some of the hadith are authentic, and it is, when you combine them together, then it is an authentic knowledge that we need to believe in. That a man from the family of the Prophet is one of the descendants of the Prophet from the progeny of Al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. He will appear and he will not have superpowers. Al-Mahdi will not have superpowers, by the way. He's not like a Dajjal. Dajjal will have some superpowers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him some superpowers as a fitna, as a trial for people. But Al-Mahdi, he will be a good leader, great leader. He will not be a magician or someone who is able to, to do things that are amazing or not. He will just be a good leader, and he will stay for 7 to maximum 9 years. And he will pass away. And then Isa alayhi salam will stay after him for a while, because Isa will get married, he will make Hajj, and he will stay. After he comes back, he will stay 40 years. Muslims will offer janazah prayer for him, they will bury him. And after that, life will be different. After the death of Isa alayhi salam, life will be different. That's a different story. But these are most of the minor signs that we could talk about them tonight. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your time, bless your families. And Sheikh Naveed is supposed to start a new halaqa. It's about the fiqh of social media. Fiqh of social media. And it will take place in downtown masjid, not in this place. Is that right? So the halaqa of Sheikh Naveed will take place same time, 7:30 after Isha. And the next program will be fiqh of social media every Friday, maybe for 4 sessions, downtown masjid. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.